Recording in progress.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Pitch Perfect Master the Drop Ball virtual clinic. I am Coach D, the owner and founder of DR3 Fast Pitch, and I'm excited to kind of walk you through this. So if y'all have any questions post the clinic, I know with the recording, I had to change the date. And if I randomly mute the camera, it's because I'm having a cough attack. So I apologize in advance. I've had the flu since December 18th and some kind of respiratory thing after that, and it's hard for me to talk for a long time. So I'm hoping I can get through this in an hour without one. But thank you for attending. And again, if you have any questions since you weren't able to make the live, feel free to email me. I will answer any of them. Okay, so we're gonna start off, if I can get my screen to work. There we go. Just wanted to kind of share that this is my favorite pitch to throw. It's my favorite pitch to teach. This is my go-to strikeout pitch all through college. Now, when I play this video, this is me my sophomore season at Georgia College. I was playing against Young Harris at Young Harris. And a little backstory I just want to kind of like start the clinic off with is in this situation right here, this is one of my memorable games because I was not planning to pitch in this game. So I was like third relief of this game. I pitched in the first game. We had a doubleheader. It is like 30 degrees outside, 8 o'clock at night. It was miserably cold in North Georgia in the winter. This is one of our like February tournament games. And I just remember my coach in the fifth inning was like, "You're fine, Ruben, you're not pitching." So like I didn't even warm up because that's kind of how our little thing was. If you're not pitching, like you don't have to like warm up that day. And I already pitched in the first game. Well, all of a sudden, it's the top of the sixth inning, and coach is like, "Ruben, you're pitching, you're on the mound." And I'm like, "What?" So I'm like ice cold, haven't thrown in like over an hour. It's freezing outside, can't feel my fingers. I don't even know if I had my cleats on. I think I took my cleats off. And bases in this situation, it was the top of the sixth, there was one out, and we had like bases loaded and or two outs, excuse me, two outs, bases loaded, top of the sixth, and she puts me in, and I'm like internally freaking out. I'm trying to stay calm, cool, and collected. And see my deep breath in between the pitch, and this is when the count is 0-1 right here. I throw a low drop ball, swing and miss. Very pleased with that. Again, I could not feel my fingers. Drop is the only pitch I could control. So right now the count's 0-2, and I wanted to get this drop ball a little lower. And what you can see is that I throw a high drop. It kind of looks like a fastball coming in, but I just wanted to kind of showcase this video so y'all can see like the effectiveness, oopsies, the effectiveness of a high drop and a low drop. So I got a swing and miss on both. She was coming in, I threw that lower drop, hit the ground, got her chasing, and my goal was to throw it lower. Luckily, I got away with it. I threw it a little higher, but it had that late break at the end where she still missed her bat. And we're going to kind of talk about how a fastball and a drop ball are very similar right now, or on the next slide. But I just want to kind of showcase that, kind of kick the clinic off, that it's a dominant pitch. And for me, that was my pitch that I could throw in cold weather and rainy weather. Like that was like the one and only pitch that I could control in temperatures that were just crazy for me. Now, everyone I think has their own special pitch, no matter what it is. I just want to emphasize that that was mine. So the order of pitches to learn, focusing on these three pitches from like 10U to 12U, is your four seam fastball, your four seam drop ball, and a changeup. And I'm always like, I'm a big fan, especially with my littles and my beginners that I teach with, is to master these before moving forward. Now, there's different grips for fastballs and drop balls, and I'm going to talk about those on this next slide. But I'm a big fan of a four seam. Reason being is it cuts through the air quicker. And if you learn a four seam fastball, then a four seam drop is literally the exact same pitch with a few different little mental cues that I'm going to teach you about today. And so we're going to kind of dive deep into that. But from 10U to 12U, this is all you need. And honestly, technically, in my college brain mindset, it's only two pitches: a fastball, drop ball, top spin pitch, and a changeup. And if you think back on, like, I don't know if you know the story with Kat Osterman. So Kat Osterman only had a fastball and a changeup and a drop ball up until she was 14, and her drop ball fed off of her fastball. And I mean, she's one of the best pitchers in the game right now. Okay, or she just retired, but she is one of like the all-time elite level pitchers in the world of softball. And from 14 years old, she only threw those 2 pitches and she dominated on those. And so I want to emphasize to all parents and coaches that at a young age, you really don't need all pitches. And if you can't master your fastball and your changeup and hit your locations and have that strong top spin, there's no need to learn a curveball, a rise ball, peel screw, off-speed pitches, etc. We want to master these 2 pitches and then we can move forward. Now, a changeup I think is super important. If you're 13, 14, you don't have a changeup, that should be your #1 priority. You want to be able to change speeds. You want to be able to throw the batters off timing. And I have a changeup blueprint course on DR3 Fast Pitch U, and that course is also inside of my online membership for my pitchers. So that is like kind of like my #1 rule is we have to master the fastball locations and the changeup locations before moving forward to any pitch to learn, just to be effective on the change of speed, especially at a young age. Now, this is Ava Fout. She is a college pitcher at Berry College. I've worked with her for 3 years, mechanically in tuned, one of my strongest pitchers. This is just a side view of her throwing a drop ball. I just want to kind of showcase that video, but I have way more examples that we're going to dive deep into. But she's very simple wind up coming through, staying tight with her fingers. Now you might think she's throwing an over the top drop, but she is not, and I will explain why soon. So why is fastball and drop ball the same pitch? This is my college brain speaking. You don't hear me talking about this a lot on social media. Why? Because when I originally started talking about this on social media back in 2019, 2020, my DMs were being blown up. And so I just kind of have kept quiet on social media on this topic, just so controversy is not being started. But within my membership, within my programs, I always share this philosophy because this is what I believe in. When I like to call the pitch by the spin, not by the result. So a top spin pitch, a top spin fastball is the exact same spin as a drop ball. So in college, when I was at Kennesaw State University under Coach Gillis was my pitching coach, Pete DeMora is the head coach, who is the head coach at Virginia Tech at the moment. The big thing, I remember my very first bullpen. So they came in October. I didn't have a coach from August to October. And long story. If you listen to some of my podcast episodes, you'll know that story. But when he came in October, my very first bullpen, I knew like he was like a big deal, Coach Gillis. I knew his history. I like looked him up. I was like, oh my goodness gracious, I can't believe this guy is my college coach. So I'm already like mesmerized, like just being in his presence, and he's strictly business. And he was asking me like what pitches I throw, and I was telling him, and he just kind of like giggled under his breath, and I was like, oh my goodness, okay. And so I was trying to like just keep my head on straight, and he asked me like, how do you throw your drop ball? And right away I said over the top, and he laughed, like straight up laughed. And I was like, what's funny, Coach Gillis? And he goes, no you don't. And I'm like, and my eyes got so big, and I was like, not to be rude, but yes I do. He goes, no you don't. And he was being so stern with me. He was trying to prove a point. And I do this with my girls too now. It kind of, because that story just resonated with me, so I mess with my girls sometimes a little bit in person. But he's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, what do you mean? No, I don't. Like for 10 years, I've been working over the top, over the top, over the top. And he's like, look at this video. And he was recording me from a side view. He goes, what's your hand doing at release? And I was like, it's coming over the top. He goes, no, it's not. What is your hand doing at release? So I slowed it down. I zoomed it in. And I was like, looks like I'm just snapping a fastball. He goes, yes. Now look at your fingers. What are your fingers doing after the ball's coming out of your hand? I'm like, they're pulling up. He goes, you're doing a mix of both. You're doing a peel, but your shoulder is internally rotating, and that's why you think you're going over the top. But your release point is with your fingers and your wrist coming through. It's not your shoulder and your wrist turning the pitch. And I was like, oh, okay. So if that's what I'm doing full speed, how do I need to think about it? He goes, think fastball, look low, spin quick. And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. And so ever since he taught me that philosophy and showed me that I'm throwing the drop ball with my fingers and I'm not throwing it with my like wrist and my shoulder, I was able to control this pitch in any and every single zone. Like I can throw a drop ball from head to chin, chin to chest, chest to like bra strap. Like I was able to bring it all the way down the ladder. And I had no idea because before I was just throwing a drop ball. I didn't know if it was going to be a high drop or a low drop. I just was trying to spin it. Now I'm able to spin it and control it with my fingers and with my eye level to be able to command it in every single zone. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so that's what just took my drop ball to the next level, was focusing on it with my fingers. And I'm going to talk more about that as well. So if I'm working with a girl who's 18 and older, like my high school girls, even some high school girls younger, I don't like, fastball is not a term. I don't even use fastball as a term. And again, the only reason why I use fastball as a term is because it's just, I'm not trying to cause controversy in the softball world. It's just kind of my philosophy on what I was taught and what worked for me and what clicked is, let's simplify it. Name the pitch by its spin. So if I throw a high drop that looks like a straight fastball, in my brain, that's a high drop with no break. But in the normal softball world, that's just a fastball. Okay, so name the pitch by its spin, not by its result. High drop, high drop, no break, drop with break. So that's kind of, when I work with older girls, fastball is not a term anymore. We're not using it. It's high drop, high drop with no break, quote unquote fastball. Okay, so with this pitch, this is the pitch that if you're throwing it properly, it is going to move more than any other pitch. The reason why is because gravity is pulling down. This pitch is spinning down. Okay, so gravity has an advantage on this pitch. That's why rise balls are a little harder to get down. And I have a rise ball clinic this Sunday if you'd like to attend it. But rise balls are harder to get down because that pitch is spinning against gravity. This pitch is spinning with gravity. Okay, so you might see, like, if you're throwing fastballs and they have a natural drop to it, it's because you're spinning your fingers quick, gravity's pulling it down, and the top spin is bringing that pitch lower. When it comes to a four seam and a two seam, like here's an example of a four seam grip right here. You can see the middle fingers at the top of the C. Okay, that is the tightest spin. The strongest spin, that's the spin that I suggest most of my girls throwing with a drop ball. Why? Because it's going to cut through the air quicker. Four seams cut faster, they're sharper. Four seams also have like a little heaviness to them, is what I've heard like some other coaches say. I don't really use that term, but I wanted to bring that up as like a heavy drop ball. It's spinning so tight that when the catcher catches it, it kind of weighs them down a little bit more. So four seams have that sharp movement, that quick movement. A two seam, nothing's wrong with the two seam. I have my girls who throw like 55 plus if they want to hold a two seam and they like the movement of it and they are okay with their drop ball not being their fastest pitch. Because if you have strong mechanics, you're spinning it properly, and you're going as hard as you can, your drop ball should be your fastest pitch on the radar. Like, it just should. Why? Because gravity is pulling the ball down, it's spinning down. The lower the pitch is, the harder the pitch is. So the four seam top spin drop ball is the sharpest, fastest pitch you should have in your pitch rotation. If it's not, something's off either mechanically or with your body. A two seam is not going to be as strong. It's going to have a little wobble, which is not bad. For me personally with ADHD, I'm not one to like a guessing pitch. I want to be able to command the pitch. I want to know what it's going to do every single time. Now in college, I throw a two seam drop sometimes. I did it a little bit my sophomore season. I got out of it my junior season solely because I liked the command that I had on my four seam, and that's all I really needed. My success rate was swings and misses. My four seam was my grip. But again, a two seam, nothing wrong with it. It just wobbles. And if you see the railroad tracks right here, if you're following my cursor, you can hold it here. You can hold it up the two seam, like on top of the horseshoe. Either grip is fine, but again, it rotates a little slower, so it has a little wobble to it. And if you have a little cut on your finger, it might have like a little drop curve to it, or drop like peel screw into it a little bit more. But again, nothing wrong with it. It's just not, I like having a sharp pitch, commanding the pitch, and throwing it hard. That was just my personal preference. And most of my pitchers that I work with agree with that statement. But I'm open-minded to them playing with both. So the most common ways to throw a drop ball, if you Google drop ball in the fastball in the fast pitch softball world, you're going to hear the turnover drop or the peel back drop, peel drop. I'm against those terms because how I teach the drop ball and what really connected with me my freshman year under Doug Gillis, who is honestly like a world-class pitching instructor, men's pro. I mean, look up his resume, Doug Gillis, from Virginia Tech, and you will see what I'm talking about. So that's like my mega mentor, and it came to spin pitches. And he just really took my IQ from here to here instantly. And his background speaks for himself. And when he had that conversation with me about the turnover, the peel back, I was like, okay. And so I'm against these terms because you're doing a mix of both. And what you can see in this video, on the right. This is just me doing some spins and catches. So I have the 4-seam grip. You can see that top spin rotation. And what I'm doing is I'm peeling my fingers off the ball, but the catch is the turnover part. So I'm not turning it over as I'm releasing. And that's what a lot of girls think they're doing. And that's what I thought I was doing up until I was told otherwise when I watched the video. And the video spoke for itself. Like I truly wasn't releasing it over the top. And most girls who think that they're throwing over the top, like myself, they feel their follow through. They don't feel their release point. And so he was getting me to feel my release point a little bit more. And that's the peel of my fingers. And I'll let both of these play. So you can see that I'm a little bit more free with my fingers, where Ava's a little tighter. She's a dominant rise ball pitcher, where I was a dominant drop ball pitcher. So for her, when she throws these pitches, she has to be a little bit more tighter on her forearm and on her fingers for her to feel that control and that command. Where for me, this is a natural breaking pitch for me. It was more comfortable. Rise was not. And so for my rise, I have a little bit more strategy for it. But you can see just kind of how loose I'm being, but my fingers are still being strong and controlled. She's also using a 2-pound plyo ball here to help build her spin rate a little bit more. But you can see a mix, like we're both, and I'm just gonna play both of these videos again. We're both throwing a mix of the peel and the turnover. It's not just one or the other. You're peeling your fingers up and your shoulder is turning over. Your forearm is pronating. That's where the turnover happens, but it happens after the fact. It doesn't happen at the time of release. So you release like a fastball, but you're pulling your fingers up to create a tighter topspin to get that pitch to break. And I'm telling you, when you master that understanding of not shortening your stride, which I'm going to talk about in another video, when you spin the pitch with your fingers, your wrist, and your forearm, you don't need your body involved. When you spin it with your fingers and your wrist, you do not need your body involved. I do not teach shortening your stride. I do not teach like on a rise ball, like shorten your stride on a drop ball, lift, come over. I don't really teach emphasizing on your front foot, which I'm going to talk about that later. I have a drill that kind of shows 2 different directions. I do, but I don't. I do, but I don't, and I'll explain why. When it comes though to any pitch that I teach, my girls' stride length is the same, the energy from the ground up is the same, and they control their pitches by their spin, not by their body. And that is my college brain speaking. Reason one for that is I do not want any good coach, good player, good team to pick off any of your pitches. That's my college brain speaking. I can pick off every tournament I've been at the 16, 18U level the past 3 years. I'm not travel ball coaching this season, but the last 3 seasons I did, I knew every single pitch every pitcher was throwing. And that was just from the IQ that I learned under Coach Pete and Coach Gillis. I've learned all these little strategies of paying attention to their forearm, and not even their grip, just their forearm bulging, their breathing patterns, a little change in their motion. Like I was able to pick it up within the first inning on every single pitch that was coming. And I secretly gave that information to my batters. If we were struggling on the drop ball, depending on like their number, if I said, hey, let's go 3 right here, 3, that was them knowing that a changeup's coming. I mean, we nailed changeups. My team was hitting bombs off changeups. Why? Because I was picking it off secretly, and I was letting them know. And I'm not one to like, I don't want the other team to know that I'm doing that. So I would come up with strategies. Now, like one game, it might be that, the next game, it might be something different. So I remember specifically one game, this girl was shortening her stride and really lifting her shoulder up to try to throw her drop ball. Now, it was a nasty drop ball, but it was so easy to see. And our girls kept swinging at them, and the umpire was not calling them. Like our girls were just swinging. They were getting in the front of the box. They were trying to beat it. I mean, my team likes to hit. And so they like to swing the bat. We're not ones to just stand up in the box. And so they're being antsy. And I started calling their name. Hey, Anna, let's go right here, Anna. So if they heard their front name, a drop ball's coming, they laid off of it. They would even get in the back of the box a little bit more to lay off of it if they heard me say Anna. Because I could even tell in that specific picture, I could tell by her body at the end, but I could also tell by her windup. She loaded back a little bit longer on her drop ball than she did on her other pitches. So that's a big reason why I don't like, that's like my number 1 reason. And that's more for like mental focus for pitchers. The number 2 reason is I don't want you to get injured. And I also don't want your rhythm and your sequencing to get off. If you're shortening your stride for one pitch, and then you get a longer stride for another, and you tilt, and then you way cross over the power line for one, and you way cross over the other side for another. Your body sequence, your timing, and your release point is all going to be off pitch by pitch. It's harder to have command, it's harder to have control. I'm not saying you can't do it, because guess what? I did it for 14 years. But once I learned, or excuse me, not 14, I did that for 10 years. But once I learned that you can command the pitch by its spin and master your spin rate, I mean, my body was healthier. I had more control. My strike percentage went up. I was getting more swings and misses, and I was staying in the games longer because of commanding my pitches. I was able to be a little bit more secretive about it. Okay, so that's my little spiel on that. But now for tips on this page, the cone and the X example. So I'm going to showcase drills on the next couple slides, but with the cone and the X's. So this example right here, this is not my facility. I found this picture off Google. I really like this picture. But this is a good little example if you ever wanted to have like a target practice. Now, I don't know exactly what these things are, but they're like hooks with the ropes. Now, this would be a good rise ball rope. So that you can try to have the girls like pitch through the rope and it come up, depending on if you want a high rise or a low rise, it goes under and breaks up. For drop ball, the blue rope would be for like a high drop, trying to get it to drop here, or for a low drop above, down, or from here down. But it's just a good visual for catchers to kind of see breaks, for pitchers to see breaks a little bit more. I really like this setup, and I have something built similar like this, but I just liked this setup a lot. Now the X's, I added these onto the picture. So in college, once I learned that my fingers can command the pitch, and my fingers, like if I had the mindset of think fastball, look low, looking low at one of these X's and spin quick, I'm spinning my fingers on top of the X that I'm looking for. So if I wanted a high drop, I would look closer to home plate, because then that pitch is going to break a little later. If I wanted a low drop and I'm facing like a lefty slapper who's running up, I might look at this first X. So like X1, X2, X3, X4, depending on inside or outside call. My catcher would draw those X's in the dirt before every single inning, sometimes in between every single batter, if they were messing up my X's. Like all I had to do was this, point to my eyes, say eye level, and my catcher knew right away, my catcher knew right away like to draw her X's. That was kind of our nonverbal communication that we had together. And that was just a visual for me. I never once looked at the catcher's glove for a drop ball, like never once my freshman and junior year in college. It was always the X's, and I would think fastball. Every single time I would say this in my head. I'd take a big deep breath. So if you've seen my video of the 7 steps of pitching, step 2, and that's a free video on DR3 Fast Pitch Use, so make sure you download that. It's a really good video. But step 2 of the 7 steps, big deep breath. Say my little things, think fastball, look low, spin quick, and I'm thinking about my fingers spinning on top of one of those X's. So spin like a fast, peel my fingers up on top of the X. And that's commanding your eye level. So if, let's say I looked at this X and I threw the pitch, or let's say I looked at X2 right here and I threw it a little higher, then maybe next X, I look at X1. So you go up the ladder or down the ladder, depending on if you want the pitch a little higher or a little bit lower. But again, I never looked at the catcher's glove, but I always looked somewhere. I'm the queen of ADHD. I'm a very visual learner. I have to have a target, but the glove is too big of a target. And I was adjusting my eyes pitch by pitch by pitch by pitch, just depending on where I wanted my fingers to finish to help with my release point, to help with my command. I just knew when I took that deep breath, that's what I say to myself. That's how I lock in my tunnel vision. Let's go. So again, think fastball, look low, spin quick. When I'm teaching a drop ball to a girl in person, knock on wood, I've worked with over 1,300 girls, not in person. Most of those are virtual, but in person, let's just say like in the last 2 years, maybe 100 different girls, maybe a few more than that, girls that came and visited and worked with me. But every time I teach them a drop ball, I don't even let them know I'm teaching them a drop ball. All I say is think fastball. I want you to look low, look at the ground, look at the cones, look at the X's, and I want you to really spin your fingers quick. Then all of a sudden, within the first 3 pitches, it's never been more than 3. Within the first 3 pitches of me saying that, they throw a drop ball. I'm like, look, you just threw a drop ball, and their eyes get all excited. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you just threw a drop ball. I tricked you. I was like, all I had you do is think differently. I had you think like a fastball. I had you look low than you normally ever would for your fastball, because normally y'all are looking at the glove or at the knees, but I'm having you look at the ground. Then I told you to spin quick, emphasize on your thumb, pointer, and middle. Those are your spin fingers. So when you did that, you naturally threw it. Now, once I get that happening, some girls are trying to force the drop. You see their shoulder trying to lift and drop. You see them trying to tilt a little bit. And I'm like, no, no, no. If you want to learn this pitch, you have to have this mindset of fastball, look low, spin quick. When they get that, they master it. And that's just like my big tip. I don't have them change anything. I'm not teaching them anything different besides their mindset, their eye level, and the command of the fingers, the command of how quick they have to spin. That is the key on mastering a drop ball without doing too much craziness to the pitch. Again, keep your body the same. We don't want to have a short stride. Now, again, I might be one of the only people in the pitching world who says that. I'm not, I mean, I know a lot of people have different opinions on it. I'm very strong on this. I mean, this was my dominant pitch that I threw, and I was the queen of injuries. And once I eliminated the factor of my body trying to throw the pitch, I had less injuries in my shoulder, my forearm, my bicep, and my lower back. When I started keeping my stride the same, I had better command going from drop ball to changeup, drop ball to curveball, drop ball to rise ball. It's really something that worked for me. That's the college level mindset thinking, and people couldn't pick up what pitches I was throwing because I was not looking different on any pitch. So that's my opinion. Try it out. Let me know. And you can even put cones. I mean, there's sometimes when I teach beginners, these cones or X's are even like halfway between home plate and the catcher. Like these were just my X's as far as the distance I had in college. But again, I had this mastered at that point. When I'm teaching beginners, I'll have X's all up and down this power line just as visuals. And I'm like, look at the X somewhere in the middle. Look at the X closest to you. Look at the X farthest away. Like we play with them a little bit more. Now with your power line, the power line's your best friend. If you're trying to throw a drop ball or any pitch and you're way off to the left or way off to the right of the power line, that's most likely why you're not being able to command it. When it comes to the power line, I'm just going to kind of use my cursor right here and pretend like this is like we're pitching towards this way. So like flip it around, home plate's down here. This is the rubber right here. Right foot on the right side, left on the left when we start. And when we stride, inside pitch, your heel is on, your toes are off. Outside pitch, your toes are on, your heel is off. So you're not, I mean, this distance, if you're X to X, that's way too far away, way too off the power line. You want to have your heel on, toes off, or toes on, heel off to go inside, outside. The power line is your external spine, and then we have our internal spine, the backbone of the human body. We want our spines to stay in alignment. If the spines are not in alignment, your accuracy, your release point, your timing, rhythm, and sequencing can be thrown off. Okay, so that's like a big key is the power line is your best friend. I would not try to throw a new pitch until you have mastered your launch and your launch angle as far as striding on the power line. And that's why I'm a big fan of girls mastering their fastballs and changeups before learning any new pitches, because that falls under that kind of like beginner intermediate level of mastering the power line. Because when you get to that advanced elite level, that power line should be mastered at that point so we can really command our other pitches. And if it's not something to work on, again, in my membership, I have resources for that. But I emphasize all the time how your power line is your best friend and it's the ultimate tattletale as far as alignment issues. So again, spin fingers, thumb, pointer, middle. Another tip, thumb down, thumb on top. And I'm going to talk about that in a few other videos. So I'm just going to quickly brief over off-speed drop balls. So this is, whoopsies, sorry. So this is Clara. She's a sophomore at Gardner-Webb University. I've worked with her since the summer of 2020. She is throwing an off-speed drop. Her dad is catching. It has great movement to it. It is probably 5 miles an hour faster than her changeup, about 8 miles an hour slower. I mean, her changeup is a good distance, like 15 miles an hour compared to her fastball drop and rise, but about 5 from her changeup, maybe 8 from her. I should have written those down. Sorry, we just did this lesson. I just clocked her. It's a good amount of speed difference. So 5 from the changeup, and then it is a good amount distance from her normal drop ball. She normally throws around 60, but how she throws it is she holds the knuckle grip. There's 2 different options. For me, I held the hike. So this is on the right side right here is what I call hiking the pitch. And what I'm doing is I'm like putting the ball of my finger, the tip of my finger, I'm like squeezing it into the ball. So yes, if you have big forearms, you have big muscles in your forearm, you can kind of see that bulging regardless if you're doing a knuckle or a hike. At the college level, I don't know how long Clara is going to be able to get away with the knuckle, solely because you can kind of see that bulge in your forearm. And so we've had that conversation. I'm letting her college coaches dictate that. So Clara knows how to throw it both ways. I feel like the hike is a little easier to hide for some reason, and you can even like lower your fingers on the ball and still squeeze really hard. But because your thumb, pointer, and middle are your spin fingers, I'm trying to isolate those. So when you isolate those a little bit more, it takes speed off the ball. And again, watching her video, you can see, I mean, her body's staying quick. She's off the power line just a hair. I'd rather her be just a little tighter on it because her hip was a little slow on this video. But I mean, she's spinning it. She's pulling those fingers up. She's pulling that knuckle up. And it's very simple to learn an off-speed drop ball, in my opinion. Sometimes I'll even have girls like play with an off-speed drop if they're struggling on getting the backspin on their changeup, just to have some speed difference within their pitches. But I do think mastering your changeup is important, and having an off-speed drop is that third speed, making you a triple threat just a little bit more. Okay, so hiking the ball or knuckling the ball, but you're spinning it the same way, you're keeping your body the same way. Your focus of think fastball, look low, spin your knuckle on top quick, spin the fingers on top quick, pull the fingers on top quick is the main focus. Okay, so this is a spin and catch drill. I'm going to play both videos. So the one on the right is what you might see if you are Googling how to throw a drop ball, people shifting more on the front foot. Now, if my girls are struggling on getting on top of the ball, I will have them do that. But notice, and I'm going to play both of these videos again. Notice that I'm not letting my nose get in front of my front foot. I'm keeping my nose behind it. I'm very picky about this. Again, I'm not a fan of doing this as much, but again, I was drop ball dominant. Some girls are not drop ball dominant. So if you're not drop ball dominant, I am going to suggest that you play around with kind of like the shift. But the one on the left, that video is what I typically have girls do, just to feel their fingers. So you spin, you catch, you're feeling your fingers rip off the seams, snapping like a fastball, pulling up like a drop ball. You're peeling up, coming through. Okay, so I'm going to play it one more time. Spin and catch. So again, this is not shortening your stride on the right. This is just them feeling more dominant on that front foot to feel a little bit more top spin. Now, again, that's a drill. I would not have them finish full speed like that, but to kind of feel that weight shift, just a little bit of like pulling up quick if they're not able to do that as much. Now, this is another drop ball drill, and it kind of contradicts how I'm talking about the think fastball, look low, spin quick. But if my girls are struggling on just that concept, they're getting in their head, I'll have them do drop ball dribbles. So this is more of an over the top drop ball technique, but notice what my fingers are doing. Like I am pulling them up. I'm snapping down hard, pulling up. Snap the fastball down, pull up. Snap the fastball down, pull up. I'm using a little foam ball right here. I think it's a light flight ball. And I'm just feeling my fingers, wrist, and forearm snapping down hard. And then once I kind of get into a rhythm of that, you'll see in the next few, I'm pulling those fingers up a little bit more right there. Snap down, pull up. Snap down, pull up. So if my girls are struggling on getting just the think fast, look low, spin quick concept, I'll have them play with some dribbles. But again, if you watch them full speed, when they snap down, they're going to have some kind of peel within those fingertips. And it's just peeling off the ball if they are mastering it. Now this is a towel whip drill, very similar to kind of what I just did with the dribbles, but I'm having girls like snap the towel down and pull it up. And so while you're watching this, if you kind of think if you had a towel and like you like, I don't know, you're trying to whip the dog or something, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what you're gonna hit, hopefully nobody, but you have a towel and like you're throwing it, that resistance, I mean, it's coming back. So that's a concept of when I'm teaching it, like with the drop balls, like you snap down and it pulls back up. You snap down and you like whip it back up. It's kind of like that feeling, that quick feeling. But I'll have girls, sometimes I'll put a bucket of balls right there and I'm like, smack the bucket. I'm like, hit the bucket hard, but then get the towel away. Once the towel hits the bucket, you have to pull your fingers back quick. And it's not pulling back, it's pulling up. And the reason why I say up is because our shoulder is internally rotating. This is my assumption if you are already an internal rotation pitcher, by the way. Okay, I should have emphasized that at the beginning of the clinic, that if you are a rotational pitcher and you have internal rotation in your shoulder, like that's what you're focusing on, these are the concepts and the drills that can help with that. I don't teach hello elbow style. I did it my whole life. I have a whole transitional course on that, and you can listen to my podcast why about that as well. But it's a good little drill just to kind of feel that motion. Now in these videos on the right, this is Audrey. She is 12 years old. And this is Megan. She's a freshman at Campbell University. I'm going to play both these videos again. Fastball or drop ball? You can take a guess on which. Okay, so Audrey on the right, she is throwing a drop ball. Notice how she even came back. So she cracks me up a little bit. Okay, so she does pull her hand back, but notice how she's not on top. I mean, her body, she gets that strong front side resistance, and then she's pulling her fingers up and back on the pitch. That's just kind of what works for her. She's a little stiff right now going through the puberty process, but this is what really has, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. This technique for her has helped her a little bit, and she gets good top spin on the ball. Now, Megan, technically this pitch is supposed to be a backdoor curveball, is what she was meaning to throw. But if you watch her wrist at the time of release, she's getting behind it and not underneath it, and it had a little drop to it. So I kind of tricked. I could have said off speed curve or backdoor curve. But if you're throwing a curveball, you're throwing any other pitch and it's not getting that break, most likely your hand is behind the pitch at release. You should have a dot. Like if you drew a dot on the back of your hand at the time of release, that dot should be at center field. You're snapping like the fastball and then you're pulling your fingers up. Now Megan had that dot on the back of her hand and then her fingertips, she pulled up a little bit at the end. So I just kind of wanted to showcase that. Now, I did want to touch on this subject. What are the 3 pitches that were used at the 2023 Women's College World Series National Championship? And the hint, Kat Sandercock, Jordy Bahl. So I'm just going to tell you, Jordy Bahl, Kat Sandercock, 2 of my favorite pitchers to watch. I actually got to meet Kat Sandercock. She attended one of my virtual clinics, or one of my clinics virtually. And she got to speak to my girls. It was awesome getting to learn from her, meet her. This was this time last year, so hopefully I can get her to come back in the future. And hopefully I get Jordy Bahl in the future as well. They're 2 girls I want to be able to do a clinic with or podcast or something with in the future. But both of these girls only threw a rise ball, a drop ball, and a changeup. That is all they threw. Those 3 pitches, they had some variations of them, but a rise, a drop, and a change is all they threw at the top elite level. Top elite hitters. Okay? And I'm emphasizing that. My philosophy with my elite level pitchers is to have 3 pitches, and if those 3 pitches are not rise, drop, and change, that's what I'm kind of zoning into. And I tell them that. Why? Because it's breaking against the plane of the bat. Rise ball is breaking up over the bat. Drop ball is breaking down over the bat. And a changeup is that off speed. Now, you can throw a rise ball and have a high rise, a low rise. You can have a drop ball, a high drop, a low drop, an off speed drop, and a changeup. So that's high rise, high drop, low drop, off speed drop, changeup. That's 6 variations off of 3 pitches. You master 3 pitches, have 6 variations of them. You are dominating if you do that. Now, at Virginia Tech, the pitchers, for the most part, I'm not going to speak on the pitchers this year because honestly, I don't know this year. In the past, and then because I know the coach's philosophy, that's all they wanted us to throw. I was the only pitcher at Kennesaw State University my freshman year, 2016, 2017, that was allowed to have a cutter, and that was a drop curve, but he called it a cutter. Okay, so I was the only one. Why? Because it was a dominant pitch. But other than that, he made everyone, please mute your camera, please, your microphone. So everybody had either a rise ball, drop ball, and a changeup, and that's what we mastered all fall and winter long. And the reason being was the screwball. He's like, no need for that. Curveball, no need for that. He wanted those pitches that broke against the bat. And honestly, that was what was the most dominating. And you go back and you look at the Women's College World Series, that's what they're doing. So if I'm giving any piece of advice, I mean, those are the 3 pitches that I truly believe are the hardest for batters to hit, the hardest for batters to read, and the most effective as far as spin if you have the speed behind it. So I wanted to kind of end today's lesson on that. So now, thank you again for joining tonight. If there's any questions, feel free, unmute your camera. If you have anything in the chat, I will take a look at those. You will have this recording sent to you by no later than Monday morning, or Monday afternoon. Most likely I'll get this done on Sunday. And if y'all have any questions, just message me, email me, contact me on my website. If you go to my university, DR3 Fast Pitch U, I have a lot of resources on there. I have a lot of free resources. My online membership, Next Level Pitching Academy. I just rebranded it actually yesterday. So the Next Level Pitching Academy has so much information as far as all spins. There's a free trial going on right now. So if you're interested, if you're a coach wanting to kind of level up a little bit more, I mean, there's over 300 weeks of information in there from beginner level all the way to like college level. There's bullpens, exercise libraries, spin libraries, programs, guides, etc. And again, you get a free trial. If you'd like to have multiple girls be in the membership, I offer mass discounts depending on how many girls. So just email me, contact me, and I'll come up with a discount code for you for a monthly discount depending on how many girls that you have. I work with a lot of organizations and a lot of high school and travel ball programs who have multiple girls, and they get that monthly discount. You also have access to free meetups with me. You have access to live seminars with me, which I have one tonight actually following this clinic. And there's just a lot of resources in that membership. There's so much things that you can like utilize depending on where you're at in your journey, coach, player, coach, pitcher, etc. And make sure to follow me on social media. So I've been slacking a little bit on social media. I'm going to get back onto it, but I've been sick for 2 weeks. So it's been a little hot mess getting back into things. So I'm going to check the chat box really quick. Amber, thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Miss Amber. Again, Miss Kelly, Coach Warnack, if you have any questions, if you'd like to ask any, I'd love to answer them for you. Just gonna have you unmute your camera if you have any, and if not, then I will send this recording to y'all. Y'all will have this ready to go by Monday. Alrighty. Well, if there's no questions, and I'm gonna head off. I don't know, Coach Warnack, if you were trying to unmute your camera. Thank you. I'll need to watch the video. Got in late. Great stuff. No, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. Great night. Again, if y'all have any questions following the clinic, again, the recording will be sent Sunday or Monday. Feel free, email me, reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you. And so, yeah, wish y'all the best of luck going into this season, and y'all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.